Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our how-to series for Sage 300. Today, our how-to topic is how to create ad hoc reports in Sage 300. I will be one of your presenters today. So I'm Sean Fleming. I'm a senior solution engineer here with Net at Work, focusing on Sage 300. And I've also got the pleasure to have Andrew Bross here with me, who's one of our gurus on Sage Intelligence with us today. So welcome, Andrew.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Agenda for today. We're going to look at what some of the resources are. There's a bunch of resources up on sageintelligence.com, so I'm going to highlight some of that. Today, we're going to look at how to find the data. That's usually the hard part, is how to find the data, how to find what you're looking for, where does it reside, what are some of the tricks to do that. So we'll look at that. Look at kind of creating basic reports. What do you need to do that? Where do you start? We'll look at just Excel functionality, creating reports using pivot tables, slicers, that kind of stuff. And then I'll take you through a little bit of the plumbing and look at the Sage Intelligence Connector module and what that's made up of. And hopefully, if you've got a bunch of questions, feel free to go through and ask those questions, put them in the question queue. The phone lines are muted, so the only way to really interact with us is either through chat or through the questions, and we'll be monitoring both. So with that, I expect the presentation to last, 30, 45 minutes, give or take, depending on the number of questions, and we'll kind of go from there. So with all of our sessions, we always talk about, well, how does Net at Work help you as an organization? Our goal is to help you unleash the potential of your business through the transformative power of technology, and we do that in a number of ways. We're actually going to look at BI and analytics reporting in the top left sphere today, but whether you've got challenges there or you get challenges with where to host your Sage 300 data in the first place, we've got our Cloud at Work team that does that. We've got people that specialize in e-commerce and payment processing and CRM and HR, as well as document management, and really all of these vendors that you see around the sphere. So if you've got challenges in any of these areas that you need to overcome, reach out to us, talk to your account manager, talk to me, talk to Andrew. We're here to help you unleash that potential of your business. So with that being said, let's move on to our poll. So with all of these, I love to do a poll. It gives us an idea of where you guys are coming from. And it gives you a chance to interact with us a little bit. So today's poll is around BI and reporting. So what is your primary tool used today to generate your Sage 300 reports? Go ahead and give us an idea of what you're using today. So we've got some that are exporting to Excel, some that are using Sage Enterprise Intelligence or DataSelf, some that are using Sage Intelligence. I'll give you a few more seconds to finish that vote. Here's the trend that we see, and it's not unusual when we ask this question. So 69% right now are exporting to Excel. And so that means today's exciting for you because there's an easier way to do this. Essentially, we're exporting to Excel using Sage Intelligence. We just make it a whole heck of a lot easier to maintain that data, to maintain the formatting, to maintain some of the stuff that you do manually. Just takes time and effort and causes mistakes the more times you touch it and export it to Excel. So we'll look at that today. So I'm going to go ahead and close that off. Ended up at about a 64-29-7 split on this. Just as a note, we will be looking at Sage Intelligence and DataSelf in a upcoming webinar. So if you want to learn more about those products, those will be forthcoming. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close that out and go back to my slides. So as I said, one of the places I want to start is sageintelligence.com. So if you haven't, you're new to Sage Intelligence, you're learning about, or even if you've been doing it for a little while and you haven't discovered sageintelligence.com, I'd encourage you to go out and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this across, and I just clicked on that link, and it takes you to sageintelligence.com. From here, there's a bunch of different solutions, so you can look at solutions for a whole bunch of different Sage platforms. We're going to look at the Sage 300 intelligence reporting. So you've got that there. You've also got additional resources. So you've got additional reports that you can download as well. So I can actually get at this in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to go to the Sage 300 Intelligence reporting area. From here, I can look at some information that's here, and there's kind of a getting started area. So you already have it, but you need help getting started. There's a download and kickoff presentation on how to do that and get going. So I'd encourage you to do that. And again, I would look at additional resources. There's tips and tricks. There's a bunch of success stories. And then there's learning in here. So you can look at Sage University and different Excel training and Sage Intelligence training that's there as well. But I'm going to start with additional reports. So if I go to additional reports, I can go ahead and download reports. From here, I can find out more to download reports. And from here, it asks you what report writer do you want to download. And so I can download this report writer. Now, I've already done this. And so when we get into looking at this a little bit later, I'll highlight where those reports are. So you can go down here into the Sage Intelligence reporting, and from here you can download the report utility. From there, you can literally download dozens of reports, probably into the hundreds of reports that are free. You can then start with those reports, modify those reports, and whatnot from here. So this is a great website to start with. 9 times out of 10, you don't start with a blank report. You find a report that's close and you modify it. So this is a good way to kind of start with a bunch of reports that are there. And it gives you the ability to kind of look at different reports that they've got. You can preview these reports. So if I wanted to look at, my top customer reports, which is going to be interesting because I think Andrew's going to go through a version of this today. You can preview that. Here it gives you an addition to that. Some of these reports give you actually a preview to it. Let's look at this dashboard. And so it gives you a preview of what that's going to look like in the report. Okay, so with that, I would encourage you, if you haven't already, go check out sageintelligence.com. It's a great resource. And you can join a community. You can ask questions in here and whatnot. So that being said, I'm going to pull down out of here. At this point, what I want to do is I want to pass the torch over here to Andrew, and he's going to take you through finding the data. So Andrew, I'm just going to give you control here. I can actually make you presenter. All right, you should have control.
Yep.
Okay. Can you see my screen all right?
I can.
All right. So finding the data is one of the most important things in your intelligence reporting. When you actually open your intelligence report and start to select your reports, you'll notice that there's a number of header columns when you highlight them. These header columns will show you the actual parameters and properties of the report and what exists within it. For example, what I've chosen here is one of those sales reports that Sean was talking about before, where, as we can see from in here, there are a number of data columns that are being actually used behind the scenes that we may not know how to draw the data out of, or may not even know off of, what is predefined, what we can do with it. So the number one thing to take a look at is the columns in there. The column header will let you see what is in there and add new fields if there's data you want that isn't already being selected on that field. Up at the top, you'll see there's columns, filters, parameters, sort fields, and aggregate filters. But for now, let's focus on the columns. The simple add, remove, move up and down functions on the right hand will let us kind of control the data we want either added to the report, taken out, or help us sort the priority of what should come first. Now, I always do like to note that the more things you add, you will start to slow down the report. So you don't want to add everything that is necessarily in there. If you were to select the add, it'll give you everything that data field has, and we can go over that a little bit as we do the live example. But as you can see, there's plenty of data like gross profit and customer grouping codes that we didn't have on that report before that we can add in and start to build new and custom reports off of. Filters and parameters allow us to sort and filtrate the actual information we want to see. So it's a great tool for building new reports, especially on the fly, to create parameters and say, I want to see data from this column. I only want to see sales that is above this value or this value. And to start, all you want to do is just say, I want to add a parameter to it and choose which field you want to create your parameter based off of. Then you're going to choose the method that you're going to use, whether that's an equal to, a greater than, a less than, or in between. It's up to you. The parameter can be something that is either predetermined, that's static or dynamic, or you can choose from a bunch of variables like a date, a value, or even a data column. So there's a lot of tools at your disposal to kind of build and create these reports. So what I'm going to do now is bring over intelligence. Can you still see my screen all right?
We can, but you could maximize that. Would be great.
So what I wanted to show you before, some of these are reports that I've just pulled from Sage Intelligence's website, that they've already built these containers for us that house this data. So from here, we'll just say, you know what, let's take a look at the top 5 products. And from here, we can see what columns are currently in there. Not many at the moment. If we wanted to add additional ones, there's plenty of fields that we can start to add. So if I want to see the period that something existed in, maybe I want to see the salesperson's already there, but I want to see the document date. We've got the customer code name, but maybe I want the actual customer number. We can add those fields. If they've got a customer item number we want to see, we can add those in. It's as easy as doing something like that. If you wanted to add an aggregate function, like the quantity net, making it a sum, we can add those in. Same thing with the parameters. If we want to add a new parameter, like I was saying before, if we want to see only a document date range, we can say it's, you know, greater than or equal to, and we can actually use Sage's pre-built variables. So rather than having to enter something here or having to use a dynamic data column or something static, we can actually say, you know what, I want to use a date function. And then when I actually go to filter my report, it's going to actually ask me to use the date that's in there. So now that we've gone over those, I want to show you how to actually edit and adjust a report. So if I were to run this right now, it'll prompt me for that new document date we've added. I've left the currency code in there. Rather than wait for everybody to draw it out. When your report runs, you get all your information like this. What you can also do is unhide the raw data behind the scenes. So right here, I've got on sheet 1 all of the data that I'd selected before. So I now got an order number that was added onto my report. We've added the customer name and document number. From here, we can actually take a report that's already been pre-generated and start to add tables into these parameters that we want. So from here, I can say, you know what, I want to also see the order number included on my report. And if we don't want to just see it there, we can actually move it, apply it as a filter, as a column. So we can move it around and just drag and drop it where we want it to be, whether we want it in a row, in a field. We don't want to use the order number and we want the document number to appear on the row. We can add things and move it around and just use intelligence's base function to see where we want that data to appear. So for now, let's just say we've taken this report, which is actually top 5 products. And instead, we kind of want to manipulate it a bit, and we want to change it and say, instead, I want to see what the top 5 salespeople are. We've already got the data there. So instead, we can just add the column in. You add it to the right place. Add it to our row, and now our row has appeared. The ordering matters. So if I go and say, you know what, put the salesperson first, I've now got it showing me the data based off of salesperson. I can change and use, your regular Excel functionality and say, how do I want to sort these alphabetically, by value? So we can say, you know what, show me the top 10. We only have five salespeople, so it's only going to show me the top 5. But from within here, we can use any standard Excel functionality to build a brand new report. All we've done is gone into the raw data, told it to add it to the report, and we can build this in any way you want. The data is there for you to manipulate. Once you have it in a functionality that you want, it's easy to save it. All you have to do is go back into your Excel and tell it you want to save this Excel template as something new. It's going to go through and ask, which book are you looking at in Excel? Typically, you don't want to have too many books open because it kind of jumps around and gets difficult to see, but we're on our top 5 products, so I'll just say I want to use this one. It's saying the report option has parameters on a second worksheet and contents behind it. We'll say that's fine to clear, and we can give it a new template name. It is important to leave the format in there. Now, when we refresh, Murphy's Law. I don't even remember what I just named that. Was it top 5 sales?
I thought it was sales top 5.
So did I, but I'm not seeing it. Murphy's Law. But ideally, it will appear. We can either rerun it or close intelligence and reopen it to see it pop up on my forms. But I don't want to drag too much into that. Sean, did you want to add anything else here while I stammer to find my file?
Yeah, as you scan through that, the one thing that I love about this and what you're trying to point out there is when you're exporting from Excel, every time you export data out and you pull it into Excel, you have to manually pull that data out. And then when you save it, you have to then format that data every time. When you save that as the Excel template, you're going to save the formatting once within Sage Intelligence. And therefore, when you go back into the next time, not only all the data that you added is there, but all the formatting that you did in Excel is there, including, if you want it to appear in different colors, you want different formulas to show up, you want different currency signs to show up. All of that formatting is retained, and then when you run it, all the Excel functionality is retained within the template itself. So that's really important to understand, because that's the massive time saver, especially for those that are exporting from Excel and do have access to this tool, but don't know enough about it at this point. So it basically does the export for you, and away you go. So I think that's what you ended up doing. You ended up naming the template that, but didn't change the name of the report. So that's why you couldn't find it.
So just going to apply that. That way going forward, I know where my actual report is. So if I were to run this again, I'll have all the changes I made. It's just loading now.
So while we're waiting for it to load, one of the things that I always point out is you can also schedule these to run too. So if you don't want to wait for them to run, you can schedule them to run at 7 in the morning before you get into the office, and they're there waiting for you, either in your email, on a file server, on an FTP site, wherever you want them to be.
But here we've got our report. It's already exactly designed as we had it before. All I've done is change a report that was originally taking the top 5 products and said, instead of showing me the top 5 products, since I've got the data, show me the top 5 salespeople. And I've just taken data that already exists within a report and reformatted it using my pivot tables to present me a new data chart that meets my needs. And the same thing can be applied, and we can create something functionally for graphs. The limit is up to you. You're using all of your Excel skills to build new reports and drive new data reports from ones that already exist. At this point, I'll turn it back to you, Sean, so we can talk a little bit about the connector piece.
All right, let's go ahead and do that. All right, so hopefully that's, there we go. All right, we've gone through that. I'll get out of here. So when we load up Sage 300, obviously within Sage Intelligence, you've got different menus. We looked at the report manager just a second ago. That's where Andrew was spending that time. We've got the option for a viewer as well. So if you've got people that you don't want to create reports, but they want to consume the data, you can build the reports in the report manager, and then you can give them a license for the report viewer. And that basically gives them access to the reports that you want to give them access to. The connector is the plumbing. So if I was to open up the connector, what this is it gives me the connection to the SQL database. So you could see as I opened this up, this connects to not only Sage 300 data, but really a number of other databases that are out there. Anything SQL-based, anything pervasive-based, Microsoft-based, you can see MongoDB, DB2, Oracle is there as well. So really any database that you can think of, we can connect to. So right here, we've got the Sage, it's still called the Sage ACPAC connector. And from here, these are what we call our containers. These are the cubes of data, if you will. Think of them as giant filing cabinets of data that we've sequenced together that are like data sets that we want to report off of. Now, we have the ability to modify these containers. These are the containers, most of them that come out of the box. Or when you download a sample report, for example, from sageintelligence.com, it'll also come with the container. The container is what makes up the data. and those containers are defined within the connector. Now, for, I don't know, 80% of the reports that you run, you don't need to even modify or worry about the container. That's just going to come in the default report that gets created, or the default containers that already come out of the box. But in an effort to build some whiz-bang report, sometimes we run into an issue where that data didn't exist within the container. So in order to get that, we use the connector to do that. The connector does have a separate license requirement, and the connector is also required if you're going to do consolidations for multiple companies. So there's or access to some third-party databases that doesn't necessarily have data within one of their cubes. So you do need a connector for a number of instances. So if I was to look at that sales order master report, this is what Andrew was looking at earlier. It's actually going out to the OE, folder, or OE table. In this case, the OE SHDT table. It's joining that with the AR Cust table within the AR Cust folder. Now, you may be wondering, well, how do I know this stuff? So part of the battle is knowing where this data resides, and we know it because we've been dealing with it for a number of years. One of the ways you can do that is download the model, the data model from the Sage knowledge base. You can ask that from us, and we can provide that to you as well. Or one of the things that people also do, and I'm just going to tie into this for a second. So AR Cust is a good example. So if I go into AR Cust and I go to the customer record, this is what makes up AR Cust, okay? And if I was to go ahead and look at a finder within here, one of the things that you can do is you can change these in any one of the finders to look at the database ID. So here's ID Cust, name Cust, on hold, ID group. So if I look at the data tables that sit within my connector, well, I've got AR Cust, I've probably got ID group, I got AR Cust. So I've got IC number. So these are where these fields are coming from, and you can find that information. Now, the other thing that you can do in here, if you have SQL skills, you can write all of this stuff. If you don't have SQL skills and you want to add new containers, you can do that. One of the ways to do that is to add a new data container, and there's different types of container joins that you can add. One of the easier ones to add is the graphical join. So if you've ever worked with Microsoft Access and you're adding data tables, well, think of it like that. So if I do a data join, I can say test here or test sales, and it's going to ask me for a container. It's going to then give it a second to load. And then here, I can use a graphical join tool, and it's going to ask me, of all the tables that I want to hit, what do I want to link together? So I might want to link together my AR Cust. So if I go a little bit further past this, now I got to find it. AR Cust. There it is there. So I could add that table, and then I might want to add, I don't know, an AR OBL table, which just happens to be a transaction table. And I know that because I've been working with it long enough. So there's an AR OBL table, I can add that, and I can say, okay. So it adds the two tables together, and it's saying, well, what am I going to create as far as my join? So I can drag it that way, and that's going to create a join between the two tables. So now if I'm wanting to run data from this table and data from this table, it's going to look at, here's the master record, and here's all the transactions that are associated with it. Okay, so we can create these, or you can reach to us to help us create this. I'm just showing you that this is a little bit of the plumbing that we can do some of these joins and some of these data table additions, if you will. So if you get into a scenario and say, hey, I can't find the data, it doesn't exist. It does. It's in a SQL table. We just need to adjust the plumbing a little bit and adjust the data container to ensure that the data table that you want to pull data from is within the data container that you're pulling into the report. So with that being said, I'm not going to go into a ton more detail. One of the things that I could do is I'll save the changes to that. And now that I've pulled that data in, you can see I've pretty much pulled all my AR customer data in here as some sample data in here. You can see I've got rows and headings that are now available in this particular container. So with that, I'm going to ask if anybody's got questions, and I'm going to ask it now before I get back to my PowerPoint, if there's anything anybody would like to see or understand while we're still sitting in the software. So it's a good time to ask a question. You need clarity on something that either Andrew or I covered. I want to make sure that we get it there. And then I want to share a few other resources with you. So I'm going to come back to the resources. I don't see any questions in the queue, so I'm going to come back to my PowerPoint and go back to my things that I want to point out. So, oops, go through this a little bit quickly. I apologize for that. All right. So here's some great resources. So we kind of talked about Sage Intelligence already. There's also a YouTube channel dedicated to adding in a bunch of what's new. You'll see up there. Anybody's done some funky reporting, or there's a bunch of how-to functionality up there on the YouTube channel. So you'll get this PowerPoint. So this link is embedded. You can take classes on SageU. SageU's got some really good classes on how to use the tool, how to get familiar with the tool, how to use the different connector pieces, how to use the save as the template, and just basic functionality for distribution. We didn't talk about that a whole lot today. I mentioned it, but you can do that. And then just network as a whole. Reach out to our network team. We've got a number of people that are very well versed in this tool, can help you that. So I've got now, of course, a couple of questions in the queue. So can you use this for Sage 300 payroll that is not inside HRMS? So the answer to that is yes. We just need to make sure that the data container is created, and then you can access that data set. So not only can you access Sage 300 data, but you can access pretty much any data. In this case, the Sage 300 HRMS data is in SQL. We just need to point our container to it and create the appropriate data container and then report off of that data container. So a couple of steps to get there, but yes, we can absolutely use this tool to do that. What's also useful for that is you'll find that we'll create a container that maybe you want to combine HRMS data with payroll data. Well, maybe that data container didn't exist out of the box, but it can be created. So you can start combining data sets together to create one set of reports that is maybe more relevant for you. So that's the long-winded answer to that question. And so there's a question around recording of this. So all of these sessions, these how-to sessions, will be available up on the network.com website. And if you've attended or registered, we will send you a link to that website where you can download and rewatch this material again. So yes, is the answer to that question. Again, a reminder, any questions, put them in the question box and we will do our best to answer them. I'm just monitoring, don't see anything in the chat yet all at this point. All right. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for attending. Hopefully we taught you something new, at least taught you a place to go and get started. And I encourage you, those that answered the question that you're exporting from Excel, this is a much easier way. It'll save you a ton of time, save you from mistakes once you get to understand how this works, and allow you to go home at 5 o'clock at the end of the day with peace of mind that the reports you created are correct. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off. Reach out to me if you've got any questions. My contact information is here, and or reach out to your account manager, and we can set up one-on-one conversations with one of our consultants like Andrew, who you can work with on this powerful tool. If you're looking for other options other than Sage Intelligence, again, reach out to us. There are other options. Sage Intelligence is the one that's included with your subscription to Sage 300. So we want to make sure you take advantage of that. There are some other great options out there as well. So with that, I want to wish everybody a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next webcast, which will be next week. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.